Let's take a closer look at those headlines and more. I'm joined now by media writer for The Australian, Sophie Elsworth, and the Deputy Executive Director at the Institute of Public Affairs, Daniel Wild. Well, welcome to you both. I'm going to get into this whole travesty, I regard it today, of taxpayer spending on childcare, private company wages with Judith Sloan in a moment. But there's ongoing stoush now between the RBA and the government over the issue of sticky inflation. The Reserve Bank governor saying government spending is exacerbating things. The Prime Minister disagrees, as he told my colleague Peta Credlin this morning.
Are Australians facing higher rates for longer because of big spending federal and state budgets?
Well, that's not what they've said, Peter, with respect. And the truth is...
Well, this is the quote here from the RBA. Public demand is forecast to be stronger than previously expected, reflecting recent public spending announcements by federal and state governments. Are you saying they're wrong?
Yeah, that's very different. That's very different from the way that you characterised it, Peter. We've made sure fiscal policy, budget policy works arm in arm with monetary policy.
Well, that's not working at all because the RBA and Treasury are brawling at the moment.
That's not true, Peter.
Well, you're saying completely different things.
We agree that inflation... No, we're not.
This is all over the media today. The government is at odds with the RBA, and it's not just Peta Credlin. It's not just the Reserve Bank governor. That's the view of expert economists. And I tell you, Sophie, the Prime Minister's only credentials he could point to at the last election campaign about his economics clout was a single essay he wrote at university. I mean, why would anyone listen to him over the Reserve Bank?
Well, Peter, Australians will see that for what it is. They are not stupid. They can see that their costs are going up. We've had 13 rate rises now, and the words of Michelle Bullock speak for themselves. People are hurting. So for the Prime Minister to try and do a bit of gaslighting there and bluff the public, they will see straight through that. When they're looking at their bills, they know that their bills are going up, and they are going up in recent years, and particularly since the last election. So it's whether there will be more rate rises, which Michelle Bullock has not ruled out, and that could be ahead of the next election, and that could be very catastrophic for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
The other side of this, the corollary, Daniel, is growth, obviously. The RBA, in its forward forecast, so this current financial year to at the end of June next year, they're saying we're going to grow by the rate of 1%. I mean, that's virtually anemic. We also have heard today there's a whole lot of businesses that are dropping off the cliff. We've got 11,000 companies going into administration. That's up a massive 39% on the previous financial year. We know households are doing it tough. We know businesses are doing it tough. And when business does it tough, people lose their jobs.
Well, that's right, Peter. There's a couple of key things there. The first to hit on is that growth is aggregate growth. The per capita growth would be much lower. And as we've talked about before, Peter, over the last few months, this is not a growth government. This is a redistributionist government. There are no policies to grow the economy for the benefit of all Australians. There is a lot of redistribution and funding for sectional interests, and that's why the economy isn't getting ahead. From a policy front, all you have to do is look at what's happening. We've got unplanned mass migration, which is the only lever the government is pulling to grow the overall economy. But as we know, it's making Australians poorer on a per capita basis. We've got the energy policy and net zero, which is causing energy prices to go up. They're trying to paper over that with a subsidy, which is only going to add further to inflationary pressures. And of course, we've got the industrial relations regulation, which is going to make it very difficult for small businesses to employ casual staff and all of the extra red tape that comes with that. So it's no wonder that we're seeing these businesses go to the wall and very, very weak growth.
If you grew up in the year 2000 or you had kids in that era, you'll remember these CD compilations. They were called So Fresh. They came out every few months, they had all the recent hits. Well, the PM or someone in his office thought it'd be a good idea to use that as a bit of a social media brag about how well they're dealing with cost of living. Now, what's there on the front of that CD cover? All the top hits: increased rent assistance, it says, tax cuts, more paid parental leave. Now, one wag quickly responded, well, what's on the flip side, PM? Record rate rises, record fuel prices, record rental prices, record house prices, record grocery prices, record power prices. I mean, Sophie, how on earth could they be that dumb?
Well, Peter, it's pretty tone deaf, this messaging. Perhaps they're trying to cater to a younger voter base by putting out something like that. It's really quite silly in my view. And again, like I said earlier, people know the pain they're feeling. So they might be getting some of these, rebates and so forth. But yes, they are paying exorbitant costs at the Bowser. They're paying huge amounts of prices at the supermarket. Their rents and mortgages are going up. So I think perhaps the government needs to not worry about putting out things like this, Peter. And let's not forget the three-headed fish they were putting out with the nuclear policies. Some of these things are very trivial and very silly.